All right, so a little bit of an update. Starting on the 4-link for the rear. So I got the rear axle pulled out. I need to go back and cut the leaf spring mounts off. I'll do that after I get the truss welded up while it's cooling down. So onto the truss. Using the Artec Dana 44 truss. It fit pretty good. I don't even be able to see from this angle. You can see how much I had to grind off. It's just a little bit on the front side to get it to fit. Got the rear axle all cleaned up. It's sanded down so that I can put the truss on once I'm ready. I'll set the truss down there and show you guys what it looks like. So another thing I had to do is slide this back a little bit. Drill a hole in the top. That way the airline for the ARB can come through. Well, I may have to get creative with the upper link mounts to be able to run that airline. But you can see here's how it sits down over the axle housing. This is a Dana 44 from a Jeep Cherokee. You can see how with the grinding it's real close along the pumpkin, but it fits. See, come around to the other side. You can see lots of room over here. But I'll get the truss welded up, let it cool down, and I'll come back and tack it onto the axle housing while I do all the link mounts and stuff, and then pull it apart and fully weld it. From reading online, looks like as long as you get this truss fully welded and then tack it in all spots along the housing, you shouldn't have any warpage issues. But I'm still gonna go slow with the welding. I'm not gonna burn it all in at once. I don't want to warp this housing. I don't have a whatever alignment bar or any sort of jig to keep it straight, so I'm just gonna burn it in slow. All right, so I'm working on making the chassis side of the upper 4-link mounts, and I'm gonna use these Artec mounts. I think these are pan hard bar mounts. They're like centered, supposed to be centered on the axle housing. I couldn't find any mounts out there that I liked that had the 3 holes for adjustment, because I don't really know where the upper link's going to sit. You can get a little bit of tuning. You can do all the calculation stuff online, but you've still got to get it to fit in there. So I need a little bit of adjustment. But anyway, these, since they're meant to fit over like a 3-inch or so axle tube, they've got this bend in them. But what I need is something flat. You can kind of see how I've gotten this one mostly straightened out. It's, it's not perfect, but it'll work. So what I've done, since I don't have, well, I have a brake, but it's Harbor Freight. It's not meant for 1/4-inch steel, and I don't have a hydraulic press. So what I've done is I've got the plate sitting in the vise, and I've got 3 1-2-3 blocks. I've got one right here where the point of the bend is, and then I've got 2 on each side. And I'm just going to crank down on it to bend the plate back. That's why you wear boots. Alright, this one you can see didn't turn out as well. It's still got a little bit of a wave in it, but this one worked pretty good. I'll see if I can straighten this little wave out. Hopefully it'll work. All right, here's the chassis side upper link mount. Once I've got it all welded back together, you can see I took off a pretty big chunk out of the. Let's see, it went like that, yeah. Big chunk of what the mount used to be. Cut a little bit off the back to make it flush. Went ahead and just welded it along the inside, welded the back piece on. I had to cut this back end. I had to cut it off. I mean, just a little bit to get it to lay straight in there. I don't know if I'm gonna reuse these. I think it'd be plenty strong without having to plate the bottom of it. But go get these tacked on, and then get some mock links in place and see how everything moves. All right, before I weld on the upper link mounts to the chassis, I'm gonna go over real quick what I've done so far. So I've got the truss welded on to the rear axle housing. I've got the upper link mounts tacked on. I've got the lower link mounts tacked on. And real quick, some stuff I had to do to this truss to get it to work is, so I drilled a hole right here. This is for the axle vent. So it's got a barb in there. I went ahead and drilled that out to a 1/4 inch pipe thread. And I've got a brass barb that'll thread in there. I've got a hole up here for the AirB airline, and I also cut some clearance into the back. You can see right here, that way you can get a little wrench. Probably have to use a little midget wrench, little Craftsman midget wrenches on here, so that I can get to there, and I can probably come from the top as well. But I'll be able to run the airline out, and I'll put a little tab here or something for it. Now, we'll see how everything works with the up travel. There should be enough here that I won't have to trim that out, but I may have to cut this bar and do something else for the fuel tank mount. But we'll see what happens once I get the upper links in. So what I'm going to do to get the upper link mount on the chassis is, it's going to weld about right here, and it'll point at the upper links here. So I'm going to take my little big square that I've got and set it up against the axle side link mount, and then with this against the frame, you can see, I've got this tube, it's flush against that, and then I've got it over here, you can see right there up against the outside of that. Now I'm going to take the upper link mount. It'll sit up in here. It'll sit flush up against this piece, and I can probably clamp it on there or something just to hold it. But, let's see, sit about like that, and then I'll get it tacked on, get my helmet on and everything, and then I can get that tacked in, and then go do the same thing on the passenger side, and then I'll make up the links, and I'll kind of go over how I'll make up the mock-up links, and kind of see one already here, but I'll go into a little more detail how I do that. All right, here we go. About to weld the upper link mount on. I've got my little straight edge here up against the frame, and also up against the upper link mount on the axle. Set this up in here. Hold it. I've got it touching the top. I've got it touching the top here on the chassis, and I've got it butted up against this bar, and then I've got it flush up against this one. I'll go ahead and put a good little tack on there. Sure, get a bolt through there. It goes both ways, so that's fine. Thing's still up against it. Now now that I know that this is kind of where it needs to be, I'm gonna go ahead and put another tack on this side, on the bottom, just to keep it from falling off. Alright, now that that's on, go ahead and do the same thing on the passenger side. I'll kind of turn the camera over that way you can kind of see from the other side how what it looks like from the back side. got the outside tacked on. I'll just do a quick little tack on the top here to keep it from rotating any. But it should be good. Good for lock up everything else on the links. All right, so here's what the upper link mounts look like on the chassis. So, you know, of course it'll get welded all the way through here. Then I'll have to come in on the back side, since this is just a little round tube and, you know, all welded in here. But I'll make another piece to go. See, I'll make another piece to go from this edge up to this tube, just a piece of flat bar, and weld that in to make the mount a little stronger. And it should be good. But now I'm gonna show you a little bit about the upper links and how I make the mock-up links. So I've got the heim joints sitting in the link mounts, and luckily when these things are new, they're pretty stiff, so they'll hold their position. I've got, of course, this one, the frame side in and the axle side in. I'm going to measure from where the tube rests up against the edge of the tube insert. So right here, and then right here. You can see right there. And as you can see, I'm using two different inserts. I'm going to have to grind some flats on these round ones. These are what came in the deal when I got that's kind of how I was able to go ahead and 4-link the back, because I got a pretty good deal on a set of Heims. But the right hand threaded ones, they have the round insert in them, but that's fine, it'll work. The deal was well worth having the round ones. I don't plan on having to adjust these that much, but oh well. But so anyway, I'm going to measure from there to there, and then I'm going to transfer that to some PVC pipe. Now I've got some 1.5" Schedule 40 PVC pipe. You can see here's a little scrap piece that I've cut to kind of show, and you can see it's not perfect, but you know, just cut your ends, make sure the ends are pretty straight, and then you want to cut a little pie cut out of it. And your pie cut doesn't have to be perfect. It's just so that whenever you use your little hose clamps to clamp it to the tube adapter, so it'll neck down. You can see here on the lowers, the way I've done it is you can kind of see how that's necked in. It just, you know, it's a little 2-inch hose clamp that clamps around it, and it holds it pretty good. And you can see I don't have the jam nut tightened down all the way on this side, but that's how I make them. I'll go ahead and make the tube for the uppers. I probably won't video that, but then I'll set them in, and then what I'm going to do is I'll get the jack under it. Hopefully those these little PVC links will hold up for moving the axle around. I know when I did the 3-link on the Jeep a long time ago, I didn't think about using the hose clamp idea. We ended up just taking some shop rags and wrapping them, putting them inside of the PVC pipe, and then putting the tube insert through that, and there was enough friction in there to hold it, and it worked pretty good for cycling the suspension to see if it worked. All right, I'll go ahead and get the links up and set them in there, then I'll video how I'm cycling the suspension, see how it works. I know I don't have, it's not going to have the coilovers in there yet. Those, I don't know if I'll get those put on tonight. It might be tomorrow, but it depends on how this goes. But we'll see how it works. All right, here we are back at the table. I've got the PVC mock-up links cut and notched, cut and pie cut to length. I've got my heim joints with the rod ends here. Now what I'm going to use are these stainless steel hose clamps. They're 1.8" to 2" is the size on them. Get 4 of these out. Slide them on. Get it tightened down pretty good where it's nice and snug. And you also see that I've got the heim joints adjusted out about 1/2 inch on each side. That way, when I get it in there, it gives me an inch of adjustment, longer and shorter. Hopefully it's just shorter, I don't have to go longer, because if I go longer, then I gotta, don't have enough thread engagement. So if I end up needing them longer, I'll, good thing I have this PVC pipe, I'll go ahead and cut a longer pipe, set it in there and see how it works, and use that measurement to make my final links. All right, so I've got all the mock-up links on. Go ahead and you see I've got it sitting on these jack stands here, so I know where ride height is going to be. But I need it to go up, and it's going to have 4 to 5 inches of up travel. So I'll see how up this goes before it hits. And now we're at, let's see, 14 3/4 to the bottom of the flange there. See, right there is where it contacts. Obviously you don't want that to be your bump stop. We're at 14 3/4, now we're right at 19, so that's pretty good, you know. The other thing I want to make sure is that my pinion keeps pointing at the transfer case, and it was pointing there at ride height. It's pointing at it now. Let's see what it does. Drop it down. See what there's 14 3/4. Just below ride height. About 5 inches of droop. That's about as much as I'm going to limit everything to. It's got still pointing right at the transfer case. And there you go. That's checking your links. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to flex it out too, but I'm not going to video that.